Psalm 27 is a declaration of faith and confidence in God's presence, power, and protection. It reminds us that no matter the trials we face, the Lord is our light and salvation. When you wake up each morning, do you begin with fear or with faith? Do you open your eyes and see the worries of yesterday or the mercies of God that are new today? The first moments of your day set the course for everything that follows. And Psalm 27 invites you to start with trust, not terror, with courage, not confusion. The psalmist writes, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" And with those words, he dismisses every shadow of doubt. Light chases away darkness. Salvation drives out despair. Strength overcomes weakness. This is what Psalm 27 proclaims. Before the demands of life rush in like a flood, before the enemy whispers his lies, before the world tries to shake your peace, this psalm lifts your soul to higher ground. It calls you to look up and remember who God is. He is not a distant observer. He is your defender. He is not an occasional helper. He is your eternal refuge. David, the writer of this psalm, knew what it was like to be pursued by enemies, to face impossible odds, to experience rejection and loneliness. And yet, his confidence in God was unshaken. He did not say, "The Lord might be my salvation," or "I hope he is my stronghold." No, he declared it with certainty. "The Lord is my light and my salvation." That is the boldness of faith. That is the kind of confidence that transforms your mornings, your days, and your life. So when you wake up, before your feet even touch the floor, let Psalm 27 be on your lips. Let it be the banner over your day. Instead of waking up to worry, wake up to worship. Instead of dreading the unknown, declare the truth. "The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? The world may shake, but God's word stands firm." Let your first thought each morning be not of trouble, but of triumph. Because with God as your light, salvation, and stronghold, whom shall you fear? The world is filled with uncertainty, but Psalm 27 gives us stability. Every day we wake up to a world that feels increasingly unstable. The news is filled with conflict. Economies rise and fall. Relationships are tested, and personal struggles seem never-ending. We don't know what the day will bring: an unexpected crisis, a difficult conversation, a new challenge that we feel unprepared to face. But Psalm 27 anchors us in something greater than the shifting sands of this world. It points us to the unshakable foundation of God's presence and promises. David writes, "The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" A stronghold is a place of safety, a fortress that cannot be easily overthrown. In ancient times, cities built strongholds to protect themselves from invading armies. But David wasn't trusting in walls of stone. He was trusting in the living God. And that same God is our refuge today. When everything around us feels unpredictable, God remains the same. He is not caught off guard by the events of our lives. He does not panic when we face difficulties. He is steady, unmoving, and sovereign over all things. That is why starting your day with Psalm 27 is so powerful. It reminds you that no matter what you may face, you are held by the one who never fails. Imagine stepping into your day with that kind of confidence. While others are consumed by fear, you stand firm in faith. While the world is restless, you walk in peace. You don't have to be ruled by the headlines, by the uncertainties of tomorrow, or by the fears that try to take hold of your heart. You have a stronghold, a fortress that cannot be shaken, and that fortress is the Lord Himself. So before you check the news, before you listen to the voices of worry, listen to the voice of truth. Declare Psalm 27 over your day. Stand firm in the stability of God's presence, because when He is your stronghold, no storm can move you, no trouble can shake you, and no uncertainty can steal your peace. Fear is a thief, but faith is a fortress. Every day, fear tries to creep into our hearts. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of what might happen tomorrow. It starts in the quiet moments, whispering doubts before the day has even begun. But Psalm 27 gives us the weapon we need to fight back. It reminds us that fear has no power where faith in God stands strong. David declared, "Whom shall I fear? Of whom shall I be afraid?" This was not the voice of a man without problems. David had real enemies, real battles, real dangers, but he refused to let fear control him. Why? Because he knew that the presence of God was greater than any opposition he faced. His confidence wasn't in his own ability, but in the unshakable power of the Lord. Fear steals your joy, your peace, your purpose. It paralyzes you, making you hesitate when God is calling you forward. It makes mountains out of molehills and magnifies the problem instead of magnifying the God who is bigger than the problem. But faith builds a fortress around your heart. When you wake up and start your day with Psalm 27, you are making a decision. I will not live in fear today. I will walk by faith. I will trust in the Lord, my stronghold and my salvation. Think about how different your day could be if instead of giving fear a foothold, you gave faith the first word. What if, instead of dreading what might go wrong, you declared that God is in control? What if, instead of running from the battle, you faced it with the confidence that the Lord is fighting for you? That's the power of Psalm 27. It shifts your focus from the size of your fear to the greatness of your God. It reminds you that no enemy, no difficulty, no uncertainty is greater than the Lord who walks beside you. So let faith rise, let the fortress of trust in God stand strong, because fear may come knocking, but when your heart is anchored in Him, it has no place to stay. Psalm 27 is a call to unwavering trust in the face of adversity. Life is filled with challenges, some expected, others that hit us like a storm in the night. There are seasons when it feels like everything is working against us, when obstacles seem insurmountable, and when the enemy whispers, "You won't make it through this one." But this psalm was not written for people who have it easy. It was written for those in the heat of battle, those who are facing struggles beyond their strength, and those who need a rock to stand on when everything else is shaking. David writes, "Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war arise against me, yet I will be confident." What kind of confidence is this? This is not human optimism or self-reliance. This is a bold, immovable trust in the living God. David did not deny that the battle was real. He simply refused to let the battle define him. His trust in God was greater than the size of the opposition. How do you respond when adversity comes? When unexpected news shakes your plans, when people turn against you, when the way forward seems blocked? Do you panic or do you press into the presence of God? Psalm 27 teaches us that trust is a choice. It is choosing to believe that even when the battle rages, God is still in control. It is choosing to remember that no situation is bigger than the power of God. Every morning you have a decision to make. Will you step into the day with fear or with faith? Will you let adversity push you away from God or push you closer to Him? Psalm 27 reminds us that trust is not based on what we see. It's based on who God is. And He is faithful. He is powerful. He is the stronghold that never crumbles. So when the battle comes, don't retreat, stand firm. When the enemy surrounds you, don't give in to fear. Lift up your eyes to the one who fights for you. Because when you trust in the Lord, even in the face of adversity, you will not be shaken. The psalm reminds us that we are not alone. There are moments in life when we feel abandoned, moments when even those closest to us don't seem to understand our struggles. We face battles that others cannot see, burdens that weigh on our hearts, and fears that whisper to us in the silence. But Psalm 27 reminds us of a powerful truth. Even if the whole world turns against us, God remains faithful. David writes in verse 10, "For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me in." Think about that for a moment. The love of a parent is one of the strongest loves in the world, and yet David understood that even if the most foundational human relationships failed him, God never would. His presence is constant, His love is unshakable, and His faithfulness is never in question. Loneliness is one of the enemy's greatest weapons. He wants you to believe that you are isolated, forgotten, and unseen. He wants you to think that no one cares about what you're going through. But Psalm 27 breaks that lie apart. It tells you that even in the darkest moments, you are not alone. The God who created the heavens is standing beside you. The Lord of all is walking with you. You may feel like no one understands your pain, but God sees every tear. You may feel like you have to fight your battles alone, but God goes before you. You may feel rejected by people, but you are chosen by Him. His presence is not based on how you feel, it is based on His eternal promise. So when you wake up in the morning, remind yourself of this truth: I am never alone. Before the world speaks doubt into your heart, let Psalm 27 speak faith. Before fear tells you that you are forgotten, let God's word remind you that you are His. No matter who walks away, no matter who misunderstands you, no matter how lonely the road may seem, the Lord will take you in, and that is enough. Every morning we wake up with choices. The world demands our attention from the moment we open our eyes. Notifications buzz, emails pile up, worries from yesterday creep back in, and our minds begin to race toward the demands of the day. But Psalm 27 reminds us that before we do anything else, we must seek the presence of God. David writes in verse 4, "One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in His temple." Notice that David didn't ask for riches, power, or an easier life. He asked for one thing: to be with God. Above all else, he longed to dwell in God's presence. He understood that nothing in this world could satisfy his soul like the presence of the Lord. How different would our lives be if we made that our first priority? Instead of reaching for our phones, what if we reached for the Word of God? Instead of filling our minds with news and distractions, what if we filled them with truth? Instead of starting the day in stress, what if we started it in surrender? Seeking God first doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities. It means anchoring yourself in Him before anything else. It means recognizing that no amount of planning, effort, or control can replace the wisdom and peace that come from being in His presence. Psalm 27 calls us to realign our priorities. When we seek God first, we see the day differently. We don't walk into it with anxiety, we walk into it with assurance. We don't react to problems with fear, we respond with faith. We don't chase after things that fade, we pursue the one who is eternal. So let this be your prayer every morning. Lord, before I do anything else, I seek you. Before I make any decision, I seek your wisdom. Before I face the world, I rest in your presence. Because when you start your day seeking Him first, everything else falls into place. We live in a world that constantly tells us to rely on ourselves. Society teaches us to be self-sufficient, to push through difficulties with sheer willpower, to stand strong in our own abilities. But if we're honest, we all reach moments when our strength isn't enough. We come to the end of our endurance, faced with problems too big to solve, burdens too heavy to carry, and battles too fierce to fight on our own. That's why Psalm 27 is so powerful. It redirects our confidence away from ourselves and back to the Lord, the only true source of strength. David writes in verse 1, "The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" A stronghold is a place of defense, a refuge, a place where the enemy cannot reach. David wasn't boasting in his own might, he was declaring that his strength came from the Lord. He had faced lions and bears in the wilderness, stood before Goliath with nothing but a sling, and fled from King Saul's relentless pursuit. But through every challenge, David knew that his power was not in his weapons, his skill, or his wisdom. It was in the presence of God. How often do we try to fight life's battles in our own strength? How often do we carry the weight of our struggles alone, exhausted and overwhelmed? But Psalm 27 reminds us that we don't have to. The same God who upheld David upholds us today. The same God who strengthened him in the wilderness strengthens us in our weakness. So when you wake up in the morning, don't step into the day relying on yourself. Step into it relying on God. Don't depend on your own understanding, depend on His wisdom. Don't carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, place it in His hands. Because when the Lord is your stronghold, you don't have to be afraid. When He is your strength, you won't be shaken. And when He is your source, you will have everything you need to face whatever comes your way. There is a hunger in every human heart, a longing that nothing in this world can fully satisfy. People chase after wealth, success, relationships, and pleasure, hoping that these things will fill the emptiness inside, but no matter how much we attain, there is always a deeper craving, an unfulfilled desire that nothing on earth can satisfy. Psalm 27 reveals the answer to that longing. It is found in the presence of God. David writes in verse 4, "One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in His temple." Notice what David is saying here. He had been a warrior, a king, a man of great victories, but the one thing he desired above all else was to be with God. He didn't just want protection, success, or blessings. He wanted the presence of the Lord. What about us? Do we wake up each day with that same desire? Or do we rush into the day, filling our time with everything but God? The truth is, we were created for His presence. That is where peace is found. That is where joy is restored. That is where our deepest needs are met. To dwell in God's presence doesn't mean we have to live in a church building or isolate ourselves from the world. It means living in constant communion with Him, seeking Him first in all things, and making Him the center of our lives. It means waking up in the morning and saying, "Lord, above everything else, I want to know You more today." The world offers temporary distractions, but only God offers eternal fulfillment. The more we seek Him, the more we realize that He is the treasure our hearts have been longing for all along. So make it your prayer each morning, "Lord, let me dwell in Your presence. Let me see Your beauty. Let me walk with You today," because in His presence we find everything our souls truly need. No one is exempt from difficulties. Trials come in many forms: unexpected loss, financial struggles, broken relationships, sickness, or spiritual battles that wear us down. There are seasons when the storms of life seem relentless, when we feel vulnerable and exposed, longing for a place of safety. But Psalm 27 gives us a promise. God Himself is our shelter, our hiding place in the midst of trouble. David declares in verse 5, "For He will hide me in His shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of His tent. He will lift me high upon a rock." These are not empty words. They are the testimony of a man who had walked through the fire and seen God's faithfulness firsthand. David had fled for his life, lived in caves, and faced enemies who wanted to destroy him. But through it all, he knew that God was his true refuge. Not a fortress of stone, not the armies of Israel, but the presence of the Almighty. We too need a place to run when life becomes overwhelming. And that place is not found in our own strength and distractions or in the false securities of this world. It is found in God alone. He is our shelter when anxiety tries to take over. He is our hiding place when we feel attacked by fear. He lifts us up when the waves of life threaten to pull us under. But here's the key: we must run to Him. A shelter only protects those who enter it. A stronghold only secures those who take refuge inside. That is why we must start each day by placing ourselves under His covering. Before we face the world, we must step into the shelter of His Word,